Hello, welcome to the final whistle. I'm Kenzie Benali.
And I'm Steve Forbes.
Well, it finishes in defeat at St James's Park. Newcastle defeating Southampton 3-1. Dean Hammond and Joe Prince-Wright are back with us to discuss that one. Dean, we'll come to you first. We knew this was going to be a difficult match. Newcastle has, of course, been in blistering form, and they were just too much for Southampton today.
They were in the end, Kenzie. Yeah, just too much by the final whistle, and probably deserved to win the game. The amount of chances they created and the territory they had, the possession they had. So worthy winners, you'd say in the end. But in the first half, very even game. Thought Southampton played very well in that first half, rode their luck at times, but also were a threat to Newcastle and asked Newcastle questions. Really brave setup in terms of playing on the counter-attack. We looked dangerous at times. Started the game really, really well with that chance with Cole Walker-Peters really early on. So a pretty even game up to half-time, and scored a wonderful goal in terms of on the break. Really good team goal. Had that intensity, that pace, and that's how you cause the bigger teams problems. But just coming out into the second half, probably been a little bit of a consistent theme with Southampton. Started the second half slow. Newcastle changed their shape, brought more attacking players onto the pitch, which caused Southampton some problems. But just saying to Joe before we came on, I think we dropped too deep, too early. 45 minutes is a long time to defend at St James's Park, and we just couldn't get out. Even when we won the ball back, one possession back, did manage to get some tackles. It was difficult to build any momentum to relieve that pressure. So we just kept coming, and ultimately conceding 3 goals in the manner we did was difficult to take as well, because the first goal I can understand at times, but the second and third just frustrating. They were just a little bit soft, and you don't want to give the bigger, better teams goals like that. You want them to have to earn their goals, to really cut you open and do something very, very special to score the goals. And they didn't have to do that. So that will be the frustration and disappointment again, because at times Southampton can really compete. And we've been saying that all season. They can compete against any team in this league in spells, just not for the majority of games. And that's where it's really hurting Southampton. Conceded 3 goals again. So difficult to take, and there will be some frustration there, because it was another opportunity to maybe get something out of the game. So, yeah, frustrated and a little bit down, as you can probably tell. But I have to say as well, and I thought Lavia was excellent today. I thought he was really, really good in that middle of the park. He in terms of possession was very, very good. Set the first goal up, protected the back four really, really well. And for a 19-year-old. To put a display on like that away at Newcastle was very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Joe, as Dean said, it's probably quite frustrating, really, because it feels like we've seen this story so many times, starting quite brightly and then crumbling somewhat in the second half. What did you make of today's performance?
Yeah, very similar to everything Dean's just said there. I think Saints were bright in the first half on the counter. Dean called it before the game, having Suleimana's pace. Obviously was causing problems, and then he set up the goal for Stuart Armstrong. And Saints were hanging in there. Newcastle had chances in the first half, didn't take them. They hit the post, came close a few times. And yeah, they did look very dangerous in the first half. But then I think over the course of the game, you can have no qualms whatsoever about Newcastle running out comfortable winners. I think there was just a lack of belief in Saints in the second half. Right from the get-go, they were going to hold on to that lead. And unfortunately, that's just after being down there all season long. The lack of confidence in the team and belief that they can hold on to leads like that is just down to the situation they're in right now. And it's difficult. It's really, really difficult to see.
Seems like we've lost Joe Prince. Right.
Who are you going to look for?
Okay, right. Well, while we try and re-establish Joe's connection there, Dean, can you talk us through the Southampton opener? The fact they led 1-0 at the break, a breakaway goal, as you said, capped off by Stuart Armstrong. Deserved lead at the time?
Oh, good question, Steve. Deserved lead? I'm not sure. I thought it was pretty even. I thought Newcastle caused Southampton lots of problems, but Again, like I say, Southampton were dangerous on the counter-attack, but it's a brilliant goal. It's exactly what they would have worked on in training and in terms of preparation, and soaking up pressure, keeping a really, really good shape. And then when you get the chance, if we can intercept the ball, if we can steal the ball off Newcastle, can we attack with pace? And that's what Lavia did. He won the ball back with a brilliantly timed tackle. Again, Alcaraz lets the ball run across his body. So he's building that momentum and that speed to attack the Newcastle goal without stopping the play, without stopping that momentum. So he runs at the Newcastle back four. I think it's 3-on-3 at the time. Sulemana makes one run and then a second run, but then is really, really patient, so he's not offside. And it comes across him. And what I like, we haven't seen much of Sulemana. He crosses it first time. He doesn't take 1-2 touches or try to create some. Puts it into an area, a dangerous area, and Stuart Armstrong is really, really clever because he makes one movement and then he stops and he just holds his position in the middle of the goal, right on the penalty spot, and then just gets his I think he scores with his right foot and just gets his head over it and puts it into the ground. Frank Lampard used to do it brilliantly. Connection, it would go into the ground and then into the goal, and Pope didn't have any chance. So a brilliant counter-attacking goal from Southampton, real pace, real threat. But it all starts with Lavia making that interception in the middle of the field, being really, really aggressive and wanting to win the ball back. Alcaraz, really, really good pass. Suleiman, a great assist, and then good support play from Stuart Armstrong with a really clever finish.
Well, Joe, let's analyse that first 45 in a bit more detail then, because Southampton did seem to cause Newcastle a few problems in that first half, albeit Gordon came extremely close to giving the host the lead.
Yeah, he did, Kenzie. Gordon got in quite a few times on the left, hit the post, hit the side netting, but Saints were really good on the counter-attack. Dean called it before the game, get the ball to Sulemana, get players in behind, and it was a promising first half. It was basically close to being the perfect away display because they're 1-0 up at half-time. They could have even had a couple others. They had some other efforts on target. So they rode their luck a little bit in the first half. Newcastle squandered a few chances, and then a great finish by Stuart Armstrong and a great team move. And going into the half-time in the locker room, you would think the players would be feeling very confident, and Ruben Sellers have been really happy with that first-half performance.
Dean, Alex McCarthy made a great save at the start of the second half, but it didn't stop the equaliser coming. What went wrong there?
Well, he did make a great save, Steve. A really, really good reaction save. I think it's a free kick from Trippier, and kind of everyone stops. Newcastle player gets on the end of it. A really, really good reaction save. Goes for the rebound to make a double save, and then it's Lianco that makes a really, really good clearance. And I was smiling because Lianco's celebrating the clearance as he does it. But that was brilliant, and Southampton were kind of holding on at that point. But it was kind of coming, Steve, because it was just waves of pressure from Newcastle. Southampton couldn't get any pressure or intensity on the ball. Very comfortable for Newcastle to play out the back. It came to Dan Burn. He plays the ball really comfortably out to Isak, I think, on the left-hand side, and he's in a one-on-one situation, but running with pace, he can build that momentum up to get at Lianco. I'm not sure if he actually means to put it where he does in the box, where he scuffs it a little bit. Bednarak kind of overcompensates his position and his mark in space. I think he thinks he's going to intercept that ball going across the front post, but it gets pulled a little bit back. Bella-Kotchap can't quite get across, and then Callum Wilson's just free in the area. So the disappointment would be that we're just a little bit too deep. The players can't get any pressure on the ball at any point. And Callum Wilson being free in the middle of the box, the most dangerous Newcastle player, is free to have a one-touch finish from about 8 yards out. That can't happen. It really, really can't, because it wasn't a counter-attack on Southampton, so they weren't outnumbered, they weren't disorganised. They were kind of had their structure within their box. So to Callum Wilson to be unmarked would be really frustration, and it just comes down to that communication. It comes down to that awareness of where the Newcastle players are. So yeah, but it's the same story, and that's the problem. We've been saying it for weeks, but it has improved at times. You know, the amount of blocks that Bednarak had today was fantastic. He was throwing his body into all sorts of shots, which was brilliant from him. But there, he's just trying too hard. He's overcompensating, trying to cut that ball out. And unfortunately, Bella-Kotchap just can't get across to Callum Wilson, who's a lethal finisher at this level who's in fantastic form and is never going to miss that opportunity.
Yeah, indeed. And of course, Wilson thought he doubled his tally, but VAR gave Southampton a lifeline. But Joe, it wasn't for long. Oh, I think we're struggling to connect to Joe there. As you
It
can
wasn't
see,
there. It was coming. Saints were dropping deeper and deeper.
Sorry, Joe, you go ahead. Take it away.
Yeah, I just said Dean said it was coming, and then
say about Italy. Beautiful scenery, terrible Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it was a corner came in. Unfortunate.
Well, I'll tell you what, Joe. While we try and re-establish your connection, we'll move on to Dean again. Dean, Saints have conceded 60 goals in the Premier League this season, but you'd probably say that none have been so poor defensively as Newcastle's third.
It's a scary stat, to be honest, Steve. You know, conceding 60 goals is far too many. It is. And the third goal is just a long ball over the top. And it kind of, Southampton are a little bit out of shape there. What I will say at that point, the players will be really low and probably accepting that they've lost the game. So they're not reacting with that intensity. That shouldn't happen, and it's not an excuse, but it's the reality of the situation, really. They're just beaten players at that time. They understand what's really going on. But yeah, it's a ball over the top. Bednarek doesn't react to it and then kind of jogs back into position. Maitland-Niles then needs to be stronger, and that's what I'm talking about, players being soft. And then when he needs to be stronger, he tries to be too clever to try and dribble his way out of trouble and trying to get the ball under control in his own area, where really he just needs to clear it. So Southampton causing their own problems, and then Callum Wilson's just really clever, really composed in that situation, has a touch, goes around Alex McCarthy and just slops it into the empty net that Bednarek is trying to recover to. So you at this level in the Premier League, one ball over the top cannot end in a goal. It really can't. With one Newcastle player in Southampton's box against two players is, again, frustrating. And I don't like to use the word, but it is just a little bit soft from the players. It needs to mean a little bit more in those situations. They need to defend properly till the end, as Oda scores 0-0. But also from being in that position myself, I've been relegated in my career, not Southampton are not, but I've been in the position where you're facing relegation, and when you've been winning games or in positions where you're winning games and then you end up losing them, it can affect you in the moment, and you can lose that concentration and you can switch off a little bit. And I think that's what happened in this situation.
Shot in that second period. I mean, it wasn't much better on Thursday against Bournemouth, was it? Do you think that teams are just finding it too easy to nullify Southampton's threats? Because it feels like whenever Southampton have a good first half, it always seems to change after the interval. As we've been saying, it's the story of the season, really.
It really is. Hopefully you guys can hear me, but it was a very similar situation. And I think, yeah, it's in-game management, players perhaps not taking the leadership and the responsibility of what's going on the pitch and figuring out, okay, we need to do something different here. Is it from the manager? Is it the messages during games? And I think just being a bit braver. Across the board all season long, there just has been a bit of a lack of pure, and they've showed so much promise throughout the season. But yeah, just coming up short.
All right, well, Dean, next up it is Forest next Monday on the 8th. What are your early thoughts ahead of that match away?
A game we have to win. Just try and stay in there, Steve. Try and win the game. Win the game for, like I said the other night after the Bournemouth defeat, you've got to play with that pride for yourself, play with that pride for the football club, and play with that pride for your teammates, and try and get a win. You know, see the season now. What's it? 4 games left now for Southampton. Can we go to Nottingham Forest and beat them? They've got a really good home record. They will be looking at the fixtures that if they can win, it gets them obviously a step closer to safety. Can we prevent that? Can we draw them closer to us? I think they're on 30 points. We've got the same goal difference. If we can go there and win, we'll be on 27 and they'll still be on 30 points. So it's still not over. And you just have to hold on to onto that hope, because from each performance we've had this season, even in defeats, there's been some good moments from Southampton. There was some good moments today. There was some excellent defending at times. There was some togetherness to stay in the game, especially in the first half. And then we carried the threat on the counter attack with some real pace, and opportunities were created away at Newcastle. So if we can do that, we can do that at Nottingham Forest as well. But it is just doing the simpler bits better. It's that concentration. It's playing every minute of the game, not just for 20 minutes, not just for 30 minutes, not just for 70 minutes. It's for 90 minutes and trying to get a result, because I'm sure the players in that dressing room are desperate for a result. They're desperate for a win. So it's an opportunity to go to Nottingham Forest and win the game. You have to forget the situation, what position you are in the league. Can Southampton go to Nottingham Forest and get 3 points? I believe they can, and I believe the players believe they can, but they need to show it.
Absolutely. And of course, Ruben Sellers has said that the team will fight until the very end. Joe, what are your early thoughts ahead of that match against Nottingham Forest?
It's obviously huge. Dean mentioned it there. 6 points between the teams. Saints still only 6 points from safety at the end of this weekend, it looks like, with other results to come. But yeah, there's a lot of pressure on Nottingham Forest. Let's not forget that. Their home fans will be going there expecting a home win. And Saints can really play the spoilers, and it might play into their own hands. So if they can play like they did at Newcastle today, away at Nottingham Forest, to give them a chance, and then they take it into the final few weeks of the season. But it has to be now. It has to be a win. Have to get back to winning ways, and it just has to happen.
Okey-doke. Well, Joe, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your trip. Dean, lovely to see you. As always, we'll catch you next time. Well, a trip to the northeast ends in defeat for Southampton and a 3-1 loss to Newcastle. We'll be back with another Saints Live on the evening of Monday, the 8th of May, when the Southampton lot travel up to Nottingham Forest. We'll see you then. Have a good week. Goodbye.
Bye for now.